Sentire Media.
Welcome to the Stop Italian Sounding podcast, uncovering authentic Italian food. I'm your host, Robert Campana, and join me as we delve into the rich heritage of genuine Italian food, exploring its legends, history, and traditions. Through important tips and insightful interviews with industry professionals, you'll gain a deeper understanding of authentic Italian food. Welcome back, everyone, to the Stop Italian Sounding show, uncovering authentic Italian food. So, oftentimes when it comes to my brand, Stop Italian Sounding, I get a lot of questions about, what does Stop Italian Sounding even mean? Or what is even Italian sounding? Or how did this start? Or who are you? So I want to take today's episode and introduce myself. If you're brand new, this will be this will be useful for you. And if you've been around for some time, first of all, thank you for your support. And also, you may learn a thing or two about me that you might not know. So, first of all, who am I? Well, I was born in the United States, specifically in southern New Jersey. I am of Italian descent, specifically from the region of Molise, and I am currently a high school teacher. I've been teaching for about 13 years, so time definitely flies when you're having fun. So why did I? First of all, I want to start by explaining why I decided to teach. And then how that has anything to do with Stop Italian Sounding and what Stop Italian Sounding actually is. So, like I said, growing up as an Italian American, I feel like I've always had one foot in Italy and one foot in the United States. I've always been exposed to different aspects of the Italian culture, especially food growing up. Food was always a huge part of my life. Always home cooked meals, always family time, always fantastic traditions, respect in history, and just that culture was very tangible for me, even from a linguistics point of view, because I grew up knowing some words in Italian, some phrases, but I wasn't fluent. I never formally learned Italian. I was exposed to it, especially through my mom's side, because she would always use the Italian language, or maybe I should say dialect from the region of Molise with my grandparents, and I was always very curious as to what they were saying. So that was really the driving factor for me to go ahead and learn the language. So fast forward to my time in high school, I finally had the opportunity to learn Italian, and I studied it for all 4 years, and then decided to continue studying the Italian language throughout my university years at Montclair State University, where I majored in the Italian language and also in Spanish, and eventually got a teaching certificate for both languages. So that takes me to my teaching years. Now, fast forward to the year 2019, 2020, I decided to take a year off from teaching and take a sabbatical and go to Milan, Italy, where I studied for a master's in international business. So something totally different than teaching, but still very useful because it helped me to learn different things, look at the world in a different way, and understand more of a globalized society, which of course we could bring into the classroom, no problem. So during my time there, I studied at the Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore di Milano, so the Cattolica University of Milan, and again studied Masters of International Business, or Masters in International Business, abbreviated as MIB. And throughout that program, I learned many different things, met many different people from different backgrounds of different countries and cultures. And one thing that really influenced me and had a huge impact was when we decided to do a study trip. So from Milan, the university organized a weekend to Parma, and down there we visited a pharmaceutical company to learn about the pharmaceutical industry in Italy. Which, believe it or not, I didn't know that Italy is one of the major producers of pharmaceuticals in the world. So we learned that business, which to me wasn't too interesting. Instead, the interesting business was the business of food. And while we were in Parma, which is in the heart of Italy's food valley, if you will, we visited a caseificio, so a dairy of Parmigiano Reggiano. So we saw how Parmigiano Reggiano was made. We learned about its history. We learned about the importance of territory and how it plays an enormous role in the production of Parmigiano Reggiano. And that really stuck with me. That really, let's just say, struck a chord, because I was, growing up as an Italian American, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, food was always a major part. And I think I was able to relate to that, food being very important, when I was visiting the Parmigiano Reggiano production cheese factory. So that really stuck with me. And if we consider the master's in international business that I did. At the end of the program, we had to develop a thesis and research paper and then present it. Now, if you have any recollection of recent history, you know that in the beginning of the year 2020, that's when the world shut down because COVID hit, and Italy was the first Western nation to really feel the wrath of that. So I was in Lombardia, the region that was shut down first in Italy. So during the lockdown, the initial lockdown of COVID-19, I found myself in my apartment with a lot of free time, and of course, a research project to develop and write. So, looking at the glass half full, I was able to dedicate all my time to this research project. So, what did I write about? I wrote specifically about an economic analysis of 5 Italian sounding cheeses in the United States and their economic impact that they have on the Italian economy. I so first of all, what is the reason why I chose to analyze Italian sounding cheeses and only 5 of them? Well, the reason was because, again, being an Italian American, like I said a few minutes ago, I've always had one foot in Italy, one foot in the United States. So I knew what specifically was a real Italian product and what wasn't. And I always asked myself, first of all, they seem like they're everywhere. Are they actually everywhere, these Italian sounding products? Why are they supposedly everywhere? And what could somebody do about it? So I wrote this thesis. I analyzed 5 Italian sounding cheeses. I analyzed Parmesan, which is the Italian sounding version of Parmigiano Reggiano. I analyzed Romano, which is the Italian sounding version of Pecorino Romano. I analyzed Gorgonzola, mozzarella, and ricotta. So these were the 5, and I realized that in the year 2019, because that's when at the time when I had the most statistics, that those 5 cheeses were worth a staggering 21 billion euros. I did most of my analysis in euros because I was, of course, studying in Milan. So I told myself, wow, 21 billion euros just for 5 cheeses. I mean, what's the amount for all the other products? If we talk about all the other cheeses, pasta, cured meats, wine, beverages, and that number goes up to over 100 billion euros around the world, and that's an enormous, enormous number. And I told myself, well, what is something that people could do to help others find the real deal? Because I know, at least I could speak for myself as an Italian American, and I know there are other Italian Americans that feel the same way. We tend to be, quote unquote, proud of our culture. And I feel that if you are an Italian American and you are proud of your culture, that's great. But you should also, in my opinion, understand the reality of Italy and understand, quote unquote, real Italian things. That's not to say to forget about your Italian American heritage, because it's not. I love the Italian American heritage. We have our own history, we have our own culture, and we should definitely treasure that as well. But as Italian Americans, I believe we also have the duty to understand the reality of certain cultural Italian aspects, real Italian aspects, if you will. So it's a nice balance. So anyway, after the program was done, the Master's in International Business program, and I earned the Master's, I had to find my way back to the United States, which was not easy, being in the middle of COVID. Anyway, I finally did. And let's just say I was a little in difficulty, if you will, when it came to food shopping in the United States, because I had just gotten back from Italy. I was used to great products. I mean, there was a Gorgonzola cheese factory right down the road from where I lived, in Lombardia. And I got fantastic food. So I didn't want to food shop when I was back in the United States, but I had no choice. I had to food shop because I had to eat. So I remember sitting in the parking lot of a supermarket, and as a joke, I decided to open up an Instagram page with the intent of course, having fun, putting the post up here or there, but mainly with the hope that one day it would grow into a platform to educate people on how to recognize real Italian products compared to Italian sounding products. So my first post that day when I walked in the supermarket was a picture of Parmesans, which is the Italian sounding version of Parmigiano Reggiano, the real deal. And I posted stuff like that with a little caption on educating how to find the real thing. And I continued doing stuff like that. And eventually I started to create videos, again, with the intent of educating, finding real, recognizing what's not real, and going from there. So first of all, what's an Italian sounding product? An Italian sounding product is a product that induces the consumer into erroneously associating the locally produced product. So the product produced here in the United States with the Italian one through the use of colors, images, geographical references, and words and use of the Italian language in order to, of course, at times deceive the consumer. So some Italian sounding products are better labeled than others, or I should say more clearly labeled than others. Some of them are poorly labeled, in my opinion. So that's where the name Stop Italian Sounding comes from. Now, let me tell you what Stop Italian Sounding is not. Stop Italian Sounding is not advocating for closing down the production of Italian sounding products. That's not the case. Stop Italian Sounding could be understood in two different ways. The first way is stop the non-transparent labeling of Italian sounding products. That's one way it could be understood. The second way it could be understood is stop, comma, is this product Italian sounding? So read the fine print. And if you want this product, that's great. If you don't want the product, that's also great. I'm for an informed consumer. I think a knowledgeable consumer is a happier one. You have to read the fine print. I'm an advocate for reading the fine print because, unfortunately, in the United States, we have to read the fine print because we don't have labeling laws like they do, for example, in Italy, which make things just a little easier compared to here in the U.S. So that's what Stop Italian Sounding means. And currently, Stop Italian Sounding is active on all the major social media platforms. The two biggest ones are Instagram and TikTok at Stop Italian Sounding. And there I create mainly videos, short form videos, again, to educate on the history, the tradition, the production know-how of a specific product or even dish. And more importantly, I educate on what specific logos mean, like the PDO logo or the PGI logo, or what specific sayings mean on the label, like product of Italy or made in Italy. And I do this at times in collaboration with real Italian companies. So I have worked in the past with Igor Gorgonzola, for example. I have worked in the past with Riso Buono, which is a rice producing company in Piemonte. I have worked in the past with a New Jersey pastry shop called L'Arte della Pasticceria. They're located in northern New Jersey, and they create and craft amazing pastries using mainly raw materials from Italy. They do a fantastic job. So they're a good representation of Italianness. And I currently work with and collaborate with Parmigiano Reggiano and Bono extra virgin olive oil from Sicily. These are currently my two partners. Now, that's not to say that my collaborations with these Italian food companies are behind all of my productions or all of my content, because that's not true. I obviously try to label things properly as they should be when it comes to social media, but they've been great partners over the years because they are fantastic representations of Italian territory when it comes to food and agri products. They're great representations of cultural identity, local cultural identity. They're great representations of traceability, of traceable products, of authentic products. And I'm very happy to to have them on my side. And I guess my goal with Stop Italian Sounding is to kind of rally the troops and get more of these companies to want to tell their story, more of these Italian companies to want to tell their story to the world, not just to the American public, but to the world. Because if we think about Parmigiano Reggiano, for example, it isn't just simply a cheese that tastes good when you eat it and that fills you up when you're hungry. You're eating an expression of a local identity, an expression of a local territory that could only be produced in and around parts of the Emilia-Romagna region. Can't be produced anywhere else in the world. And it's an experience when you eat Parmigiano Reggiano because, again, it's not just something that fills you up. It is something that represents over 9 centuries of history, something that represents extremely strict production regulation and know-how, something that represents families that produce this, that have been producing this for generations. So it represents cultural identity, something that has been in their DNA for many, many generations. So this isn't something that you could just produce, on some in a random location in the United States with milk that doesn't even come from that specific area. So I mean, Parmigiano Reggiano is a fantastic expression of territory, but there are so many stories to be told when it comes to Italian agri-products, because Italy is the nation within Europe that has the most amount of protected products. And things like terroir play a huge, huge role in the importance of the traceability of a product. So if we talk about things like extra virgin olive oil, but terroir is valid for all agri products. But extra virgin olive oil, for example, I mentioned one of my partners, Bono, they're Sicilian, the biggest producer of extra virgin olive oil in Sicily. Fantastic partner. I love them and love their products. So terroir is important. Let's just take into consideration they have a PDO, extra virgin olive oil, and that could only be produced in the Val di Mazzara area of Sicily using olives that come specifically from that area, that are grown in that area, that are pressed in that area, processed in that area according to strict and traceable regulation and standards. And that's an expression of that territory, but also of the labor that the people put into that and the production know-how. So that's why terroir is important. And that's why I think so many different stories of Italian agri-products need to be told. And that's what I want Stop Italian Sounding to be. I want Stop Italian Sounding to be a platform to tell the stories of fantastic Italian products that need to be told to the world, because like I said, it's not just food filling you up. It's an experience when you eat or drink an Italian beverage or eat an Italian food. You have so much history behind that it almost becomes a direct trip to Italy, and that's something that I set out to tell. Long term, Stop Italian Sounding, what's on the horizon? So for the long term, I want to eventually get into long form video content to put on YouTube, but also to bring my content to life. I want to eventually start organizing in-person events aimed at educating not just professionals in the industry, but also consumers as well that are interested in tasting the product, but also learning about the products. And this is something that's on the long-term horizon for Stop Italian Sounding, something that I want to bring to life and bring to you specifically in different areas, not just in New Jersey, because that's where I'm located, but in many different areas of the country and who knows even of the world. So that is the mission of Stop Italian Sounding, to educate against Italian sounding products and for real Italian products, how to recognize the difference between both of them. So anyway, as we wrap up today's episode as to what Stop Italian Sounding even is, what it means, I hope you gained knowledge from this. And if you could share this episode with people who are interested in Italian products, learning about real Italian products, I think they'd find a lot of value in this, because like I said before, growing up as an Italian American, food is a major, major part. And it's kind of makes sense, in my opinion, to learn at least about Italian food and its history. So that's what I set out to do. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the stories of authentic Italian cuisine. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast for more insights and interviews. Also, feel free to reach out with your thoughts or questions on our social media channels at Stop Italian Sounding or on our website, stopitasounding.com. Grazie a tutti e alla prossima.
Sentire Media.
Hey, podcast producers and show hosts. Do you want to join a podcast network that celebrates all things Italian? At Sentire Media, we understand the allure of Italy and its unique culture. Our devoted team of hosts and producers are all driven by their shared passion for Italy. And we work tirelessly to create the best lifestyle podcasts and content that will whisk you away to the very heart of Italy. With us, you can savor the mouth-watering flavors, get lost in the stories from the past, break down the cultural barriers, and truly immerse yourself in the vibrant traditions of this intoxicating country. If you have a great podcast idea or are already in production and would like to join Sentire Media, head over to sentiremedia.com, that's SENTIRE media.com, and find out how to submit your show.